Yo, what up? Welcome. Haircut jump scare. My hair's a little bit shorter now. I actually got a proper haircut this time. Ah, perfect. Capture card is working properly. No need to do some fuckery to make that work. Anyways, I'm it seems like every now and then I'm just having to reevaluate my approach to stream, because I sometimes I feel this artificial sense of pressure, and it's really just pressure that I'm putting on myself, and I shouldn't be doing that because this is a thing ultimately that I want to do, not something that I should feel like I have to do. You know, streaming that is. So I should focus on the things that I like when I'm doing this. Politics is one of them, but you know. Maybe some other stuff as well. Either way, I'm here to play. I'm here to drive. I'm here to commentate. And many such other things. It'll be good. Obviously, the news is hitting like a truck, but fucking, it is what it is. Ah! 8 other people. Okay, I recognize a couple folks here. Nice. Also, Twitch says my bitrate is unstable, but there's no indication that it is actually... Okay, there we go. It just corrected itself. Yeah, okay, no, we're good, we're good. What do we got? What do we got? Yoshi! Oh, let's go, Jack. Oh no, he's having a hard time. Ugh. So, I should you know what, I need to get into the habit of just jumping in stream right away and not like letting the air sit for too long, at least not at the beginning, because I feel like that does bad things for my momentum when I do this. Let's start right on the list of stuff. Let's start with something small but actually very funny. So today's Super Tuesday, which is not directly the thing I'm talking about. The thing I'm talking about happened a couple days ago. There are a few primaries, like primary elections that lead up to Super Tuesday, you know, for various different states. One of them is actually the primary for the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. And that actually goes for both Democratic and Republican parties. So the Republican primary in D.C. happened recently. And that just so happens to be the only primary so far that Nikki Haley has won, which is incredibly funny because you know that's not going to make any difference in the like Republican race, and also because DC is a very left leaning locale in the United States. It's a very weird situation. DC, despite having more population than some states in America, does not have statehood. They don't have representation in Congress. And as a result of being like an urban center, as well as being a center of government, you know, very proximal to all these policy changes, and having one level of government kind of removed, where they don't really have a state government, they just have city government and stuff. You know, people tend to be really left-leaning in DC, including Republicans. So there's like... First of all, there's only like a couple thousand Republicans in DC out of the 500,000 people that live there. You know, I think that there was over an 80 or 90% vote tally for Joe Biden in the 2020 election, and then like between, actually, how much was it? DC vote 2020. Yeah, Joe Biden won 92% of the vote in DC in 2020, and Trump only won 5%. Yeah, less than 20,000 people voted for Trump in DC in 2020. So not a lot of Republicans there. And, you know, like I said, the Republicans that are there disproportionately don't like Trump relative to Republicans in other states in the country. So they elected, well, they voted for Nikki Haley in the primary. And it's incredibly funny that those are the circumstances that all had to coalesce for Nikki Haley to win so much as one primary. She couldn't win in South Carolina. She couldn't win in New Hampshire. But she got DC, and I have a feeling that's the only primary she's going to win. You know. I don't know if she's going to suspend her campaign, though. What I think is going to happen, because usually with candidates in primary elections, what they do is like, oh, I'm not going to suspend my campaign. We're still going strong. And they drop out like 2 days later. Nikki Haley might actually stay in. Hey, what's up? Globalize my agenda? Well, welcome back. Nikki Haley might actually stay in the presidential race because there's like the vague sort of possibility that like Trump might just die, or he might also like get put on trial or go to prison or whatever. It's not very likely, but it's possible. So she's probably holding out for that. Facebook gave her family a big scare today. Oh yeah, that's right. I heard about that. Some big outages have been happening on social media, particularly with outlets owned by Meta. You know, people said Facebook and Instagram, and I mean, nobody talks about Threads, but Threads too was experiencing a outage. But apparently they actually have it fixed now. Enough people were talking about it that I looked it up, because it seemed like there were multiple outages across different social media outlets, and there were a couple news articles from like actual mainstream news outlets saying like, yeah, you know, there was an outage at in the Facebook server room or whatever, but they actually have it fixed now, and those sites are back up. I hate how, and if anything big happens here, the first thought is always like Russia is invading or something. Yeah, there's a lot of paranoia in Eastern Europe about that. Some of it like justified on an underlying level, but then like it also just gets blown up all sorts of ways where it's like, oh, XYZ thing happened in the news. That must mean it was Russia that did it. Actually, it's like, well, no. Sometimes that stuff just happens. You know. But yeah, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you view Facebook's various social media outlets, those outlets are back up and running. Do you hear about GPS not working in Poland and Sweden right now? I did not hear about that. That sounds like a little bit weird. Google Street View is in shambles right now. I don't even know what would make that happen. Apparently Russia's blocking it from Kaliningrad. Okay, yeah. Yeah, signal jammers can do that sort of stuff. Oh, barely made it across there. Alright. So far, so good, actually, this race. GPS can't see most of the Baltic Sea right now. Ah. That probably means that Russia... if it is Russia jamming and not just some like satellite failure or whatever, then it could mean that Russia's doing some mischief in the Baltic Sea. You know, it's probably just something, some silly stuff that they don't want like neighboring countries to see about immediately. There are similar. A lot of countries try to find scenarios where like GPS wouldn't be able to see what they're doing before they do some intelligence related stuff or some military operations and whatever. Certainly the United States has done this thing before where it makes a certain region go dark or whatever. It's not too unusual, but you know, I think it'd be smart for countries like Sweden and Poland to sort of give Russia the side eye as they're doing that. But earlier, I mentioned Super Tuesday, and that wasn't an accident. Today is March 5th, Super Tuesday. Apparently, Sweden and Finland is investigating it. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see what that turns up. Today is Super Tuesday in the United States. This is the day where most states have their primary elections, and the reason I brought that up earlier was to talk about Nikki Haley, but there's also a good segue into another thing. I literally went to take some cash from my card when I heard the news. That's funny. Like, oh yeah, by the way, you know, signal jamming the GPS. You look up from your ATM, you're like, what? Yeah. You know, the uncommitted vote campaign recently in Michigan got a lot of support. It was about 10% of the, or not 10%. It was like 13-ish% of the people that turned out to vote in Michigan in the Democratic primary voted for uncommitted. And this was when Joe Biden is the only major candidate on the ballot. He's gone virtually unchallenged. And I say virtually because Marianne Williamson was also running in the primary, and I voted for her on my ballot that I got in the mail a little while ago. Such a if Russia cyber attacks the banks, no more money for us. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, that's true. Most banking is done through online and computers and shit anyways. Yeah. You know, in retrospect, I kind of wish that I had been able to get a ballot in some circumstances where I would be able to, like, vote for the uncommitted option. But I guess, you know, it's kind of a moot point, because it's like, well, I can't see into the future. I don't know if it really matters that much. You know? But Virginia is one of those Super Tuesday states. They're having the primary today. So hopefully we'll see more of the uncommitted vote campaign, since that had some success in Michigan. And the primary election is actually the best place to exercise protest votes in a two-party system, especially with the United States. The way things work is that you don't actually vote for the party. It's like you do and you don't. You're voting for the person who is registered with the party. But ultimately, you're voting for the person. And there's not always, like... Ideological compliance in parties in the United States is a lot lower than the ones in Europe. Because of, like, a couple things. One of them being that the United States doesn't have any, like... The parties don't attend party internationals or whatever. Like, the Democratic Party in the United States technically isn't a liberal party or a conservative party or a socialist party or whatever. They just have whatever their agenda is. Whereas in Europe, there's like, if you have the Socialist Party, they have to be pretty similar to all the other socialist parties. Like, that's the rule, right? Because they go and they set their platform with other socialist parties, they talk to other socialist parties and whatever. American parties don't do that. So we just have the Democrats and the Republicans who will, I don't know, by happenstance end up being left or right. And that can lead to a lot of people being potentially dissatisfied or like dissatisfied and sort of betrayed in a certain way with like the way that the parties behave. You know, because it's like there's less of an expected model for change to take place. There are like, I don't know exactly how to communicate this. What I'm trying to build up towards essentially is that a lot of people who vote for the Democratic Party are pretty left-leaning, right? Like the Democratic Party right now is the left party in the United States, and that includes issues like Israel-Palestine. But unfortunately, Joe Biden has been Israel's strongest warrior, been going to bat for the Israeli government and, you know, defending them. Him and his administration have for a long time, and people are really, really not happy with that. Particularly the Democratic voter base, people who are left-leaning, because this is an example of the Democratic Party being way out of step with the American left, or with the, you know, American liberals and whatnot. So, as a result of that, people wanted to find out a way to not just protest, but specifically direct that protest towards elected officials that should be reflective of their beliefs, but aren't. Namely, in this case, you know, Democratic voters want to protest against the Democratic Party because they would potentially listen. And the way they found to do that was, shout-outs to Rashida Tlaib. She's a congressperson from Michigan. She said, hey, everybody who's going to vote in the Michigan primary, I urge you not to vote for Joe Biden, but instead to vote uncommitted. Just in the primary, by the way. You know, obviously, the underwriting assumption for all of this is that when the general election comes and you have a Democrat and a Republican, the Democrats will vote for the Democrat, and the Republicans vote for the Republican, and all that. But in the primary, there's the opportunity to do a protest vote. So people went out and did that in Michigan, and in large enough numbers that it would, like, formed a few question marks in people's heads. Both, you know, pollsters, news pundits, politicians, whatever, they started paying attention to that, and the Democratic Party they kind of sloppily addressed it in a couple of statements. Hopefully there are more states that have taken note of that, and hopefully we'll see more uncommitted options on state ballots, or like ballots from each state. You know? Because I think at this point, the writing's kind of on the wall for Joe Biden and his administration that, like, this is going to be the make or break issue. As crass as it sounds, because the Joe Biden administration has been extremely crass about this, they really were banking on the genocide having been done by this point. Like, literally the party line from people who support the Democratic Party, even through all this, like uncritically so, is that people will forget about it by November, which is like insane to me. That like that's the line they're going with. Like, no, people will not forget about it. It's, you know, genocides are not some quick and easy thing that you can just have over and done by the time an election rolls around. Like, the genocide that Israel is doing doesn't operate on the American electoral schedule. I'm sorry to tell, you know, Joe Biden and all the Democratic Party sort of folks. I've been watching Destiny, and he says there is no genocide. Yeah, and that's because he's okay with the genocide happening. Like, you can go and look at the Wikipedia page for what a genocide is, and it fits perfectly with the UN statistics and international human rights groups accounts of what is taking place in Gaza. Like, you could even water down the actual events happening in Gaza, and even then, at least 3 of those definitions of genocide are pretty safely met. I'm gonna get red shelled here. Yeah. Destiny's not somebody who I have too much respect for on this issue. And ultimately, I think the only reason that he's saying that, really, is because he's, like, very, He really does not like lefties, like people on the left. And a lot of people on the left are saying, like, very vehemently, there is a genocide, which is true. You see, the left stays winning in the battle of who is correct. Pretty sure he thinks those groups are pro-Palestinian. Yeah, and they are. They are pro-human rights, which means that they would be sympathetic towards the human rights cause of Palestinians. You see. He thinks they do anti-Israel propaganda. Bro, the truth is anti-Israel propaganda. Like, the fucking facts of the world are anti-Israel propaganda because Israel's a fucking monstrous country. But yeah, no, his assertions and his implications there are pretty bullshit. That, like, oh, they're distorting the facts where Israel actually isn't doing all the things that Netanyahu and Israeli government officials have been screaming from the rooftops that they are doing, want to do, will continue to do, and have wanted to do for a long time. You know, it's not a very well informed position, I think. But that's enough tea. I don't want to harp on that too much. What's especially grim, I shouldn't have looked at that yet. That's made my stomach turn. What's even more grim, is that now there are each successive incident in Palestine escalates further and further, it seems. I read Al Jazeera every now and again to catch up with the situation. They do pretty good reporting, all things considered. And people have started to die of starvation-related causes in Palestine, and in such a way that really makes me worry. I think I saw there were some kids in Palestine, about a dozen or so, in North Gaza, I believe, that died of like hunger and malnutrition. And that number is only going to increase in the future. Sick, yeah. Oh, what? That red shell came for me, huh? Interesting. Oh. I think I kind of have to just go with this thundercloud here. That actually works out. Make me big? Yes. Perfect. I think I know where to use this mushroom. It's up here somewhere. Yeah. Oh, well. Got him. No, I didn't get a box. That's bad. Oh. That blue shell, however, is good. Okay, finally. Barely avoided those bananas in the fake item box. Alright, cool. Second place. Do I really want to talk about Gaza? I feel like I should. I will, and then I will move on. I mentioned that kids have started to starve to death as well, but Jesus Christ. I'm gonna look at that photo. Saw something from the Euromed monitor. I have to cover that as I read this. Israeli tanks have deliberately run over dozens of Palestinian civilians alive. Get that photo out of there. Israeli army's repeated killings of Palestinian civilians by deliberately running them over alive with military vehicles was vehemently denounced by Euromed Human Rights Monitor on Sunday, as was the widespread destruction of civilian property. These crimes are part of Israel's genocide against Palestinians in Gaza Strip, the rights group said, ongoing since 7th October 2023. Euromed Monitor documented the Israeli army's killing of a Palestinian man who was deliberately run over in Gaza City's Al Zaytun neighborhood on 29th of February after he was arrested. So they already had this guy in custody. He was subject to harsh interrogation by members of the Israeli army who bound his hands with plastic zip-tie cuffs before running him over with a military vehicle from the bottom to the top of his body. Jesus fuck. The incident occurred on the main Salah al-Din street in the Zaytun neighborhood, according to eyewitnesses who spoke to the Euromed Monitor team. I think that okay, that's about all I can stomach from that conflict. This is what I meant when I said that the atrocities were escalating, seemed to be getting worse and worse over time. Israel has been given so much leeway by the American government, by to a lesser extent other Western countries, but you know, especially America, to just do like whatever, right? And you know, when they have free license to just do whatever, they just do whatever, and that includes running people over with tanks. You know, because they know that Joe Biden's gonna go and sort of ho-hum about it on American news and be like, well, you know, Israel's doing what they can. Israel has a right to defend themselves, etc., etc. Sorry. That guy's carding? What a god gamer. Oh, almost. Whoa, man! That was a very close call. Didn't quite get him. Oh, first place. Ay, ay, ay. Why did I open up with the bad news? Let's talk about good news. There is good news, believe it or not. If only a little bit. It's like a fucking kernel of hope to be found in all the madness. I have talked a few times before about how there are various state Republican parties, you know, the fascist parties at the state level, that are running out of money. That you know, no longer have enough money to keep themselves afloat. This is also the case with the Republican Party at the national level. The RNC, Republican National Committee, If I go to the Slate transcript here of a I think a news podcast or whatever. Let's see if I go eat. Yeah, there we go. The Republican National Committee only has $8.7 million on hand. Not any given, like, state Republican Party. That's the national level Republican Party in a year where an election is happening. They have less than $9 million on them. Which is insane. And that's great, because it means they're not going to be able to spend very much money. And of course, all the internal sort of leadership at the RNC have taken note of this, and they are appropriately shitting themselves. And of course, I talk about this in a certain way. But it's what this really is like a continuation of the race to the bottom. I've explained why and how this election is kind of like a race to the bottom, that I just hope that the Republicans win that race. And it seems like they are winning on this front, but, you know, again, the Democrats are going to do something that make me think, like, oh my god, dude. No, I didn't mean to do that. Hell yeah, my bad driving gets rewarded. What's up, Matt? I was considering throwing this green shell, but then I was like, nah. That'd be, like, really fucking mean. Alright. Snaking. Okay, that worked out. Get rid of that red shell. Okay, this is, that's how you're supposed to do that. Nice. Oh. Yeah, things don't look too good for Republicans. Hopefully. Well, I mean, we'll see, right? Like I said, I've seen the Democratic Party blow this before. Meanwhile, the Republicans are kind of they're not in the clear, because the Republican leadership has made it clear how much they really don't like Trump for strategic purposes, but they do depend on him in a certain way, which makes it good for the Republicans that the Supreme Court has delivered Trump another W on a silver platter in their ruling that no, states can't remove him from the ballot. Ugh. I mean, we all could have seen this coming a mile away. It's even more disappointing that it was a 9-0 decision. You know, we'll leave the issue of abortion up to the states, but when a president is credibly accused of engaging in insurrection and is currently undergoing criminal prosecution and standing trial for that, then no, actually it's fine. You can't remove him from the ballot. Goofy ass country. So fucking, it's draining. You know what it is? It's draining because every day I have to fucking come to terms with, like, okay, the US is gonna turn into a fascist dictatorship because liberal institutions are fucking designed to cede ground to fascists wherever they have the opportunity to. Like, seriously, that, like, I know that, you know, liberal democracy in theory is also the best platform currently available to socialist ideas and policymaking, but holy hell does it seem like it's a hell of a lot more of a beneficial platform for fascists and like a fascist policy agenda and shit. My god, dude. Because the fascists, like, fascists will just say, like, yeah, we think the law is more favorable to us, actually. And they'll just do the, like, most brazen shit you could imagine. And then liberals will be like, well, we think that there is a correct way to do this and whatever, but, like, you're not doing good things in the correct way, so we're gonna say that the rules aren't, like, in favor of your point here, or something like that. It's just so stupid. Fascists right now are better at populist rhetoric than the left. No, they're not. The fascism in the United States is incredibly unpopular, including the rhetoric to that effect, because it's entirely about things that aren't happening. You can look at polling data. Most Americans are decently progressive and receptive to the ideas of politicians like Bernie Sanders. The fact of the matter is just that there is a populist right in America. There is no left in America, like, not at the institutional level. The best we get is liberals. Every politician that is left of like fascism is anti-populist to their core. They're institutionalist. They're the opposite of populist. If left populism existed in the United States, the right wing would never win another election. The right would gain no ground because, like, fascist populism is disingenuous. It's not real populism. It makes promises that it has no intent to keep, and you know, in the face of like left populism, it fails every single time. Because left populists don't need to lie. Fascists do. The issue isn't that fascists are better at populism, it's that fascists are the only ones doing populism in the United States right now. There is no institutional presence of the left in America. There is nobody to do populism on the left, except Bernie Sanders. And he's been killing it for his part. You know? Because, like, at the end of the day, right? Here's what I mean by that. Like, or here's like an elaboration on what I mean, and some details to that effect. Liberals are incapable of being populist, at least for the most part. There are some exceptions. Zelensky in Ukraine in 2019 was actually really good at being a populist. When there's still room for liberalism to develop, as like a means of fighting corruption and building civil society and whatever, you can get away with being a liberal and a populist. But in the United States, a very well-developed country, liberals can only ever be institutionalists. Not fascism, excuse me. Populism, at its core, is fundamentally about distrust of a status quo and systems surrounding it, right? Fundamentally, every populist movement at its core is about sympathizing with people's distrust of current norms and institutions, that they're not doing enough for the people, that there needs to be radical change, and that the system is rigged against the common man, right? That's the narrative. Democrats and liberals in America are incapable of doing that because their entire identity is centered around trusting the system, trusting the process. The system works. This is anti-populist language. And that's why Democrats lose like ever. That's the reason that Democrats keep losing, is because they're politically illiterate and they can't engage with populism. They just can't comprehend it. It's gonna throw that. I don't think it's really gonna do anything. Yeah. Damn it. I think I almost got him with that green shell. Huh. You fucked up. Huh. Driving pretty good right now. Does he have triple reds in second? That's kind of crazy. Oh no! Dang. I don't know why it gave me that trick there, and then shot me off to the side. That was fucking weird. I might make that into a segment. I think knowing how populism works is really useful, so I'll make that into a segment. Let's see, March 5th stream. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's go to the next It's the last bad news thing that's on the list. Well, actually, no, there's one other thing. I lied. Wildfires. Wildfires in Texas. This was happening a few days ago. I didn't really cover it while it was happening, but apparently there had been wildfires raging there that were the size of Rhode Island, which is another U.S. state. Pretty big wildfires, some of the worst that Texas has ever seen. And they were caused by, according to I think climate experts and scientists that commented on the incidents, it was caused by, at the very least in part, climate conditions that were literally the driest we've ever seen in known history. Like, even drier than periods of time in, like, the Ice Age and whatever that were dubbed as, like, mega droughts. We're apparently in an even more arid stretch of time than that. And, you know, they've said, like, the thing that's actually making it possible for such dry, like, extraordinarily dry conditions to exist, like this, is well, climate change. So, you know, welcome to America. I love it here. We get fucking climate change, massive fires, and all that. Got him. Ooh, he tried. Whoa, how did they do that? Damn. I guess I'm in first now? Wacky. We're green shells, okay. Ow. Oh, shit. Oh. Okay, well. Did I race that well? Well, I feel like I raced as well as I could have, but there was definitely something that those guys did that I didn't know about, so that gave them an upper hand. See if I can find more about the Texas wildfires. Texas A&M Forest Service. Fuck it. CNN, what do you got? Firefighters racing to wrangle the largest blaze in Texas history could get their best chance in days to contain the flames in the wake of a cold front on Monday. Hot air and raging winds have fueled the infernos in recent days, reducing entire neighborhoods to rubble and inflicting harrowing injuries upon ranchers' livestock. Fucking hell. Fire has killed at least 2 people and has crossed into Oklahoma? Shit, I didn't know it was that bad. It's looking like it's going to be a rough summer for the Great Plains. Oh, okay. I was very afraid that I was gonna fall off there. Thankfully, it didn't happen. Sorry, mate. Really did not mean to do that. Oh, he's got more mushrooms? Damn. It's mirror mode, too. Dude, this guy's making out like a bandit. But never mind. Here, let's just dispense with all that. Oh, okay, well, that worked out. No, I'm fucking... I got too ambitious with that. That's a good POW, I think. It's a scary AF. The fires, you mean? Or the... No! Damn it. Get that out here. What? What are you referring to? I don't know what you're talking about. Apparently I cannot turn off track. Like, stop eating people's homes. Who? What are you talking about? Massive info leak in Lithuania? Oh. That's pretty bad, but I don't think it's imminently dangerous. That stuff... Info leaks are more of an optical concern, if anything. If every single detail of our lives, yeah, as if they couldn't already. We're living in the 21st century. The only thing that you could conceivably use that for that would be, like, actually scary would be cyber warfare. And in that case, it would be actually an act of warfare, which would lead to, hypothetically, World War III. But I've explained why that won't happen. Voices, addresses, faces, phones, they can control our heating, water. Yeah, no shit. Everybody, like, governments all over the world know what you look like, know the details of your life if they want to. Dude, there's some office in China where they know what my face and address and social security number are. That's just how information exchange works. That's how intelligence works. People always make a huge deal out of that sort of stuff. It's only, like, it's ultimately, that's up to optics more than anything. Like I said, if they tried to do some, like, hey, what if we turned off their heating and water? That's an act of war. Then, like, they would have the entire fucking weight of Europe bearing down on them, militarily speaking. And the United States. So they won't do that. About our defense plans are leaked? Yeah, that's pretty bad. But with time, you can come up with new plans. You know? And look, with a country like Lithuania, like, you know, obviously no offense here, but like Lithuania is small. And so, like, I think it'd be more concerning if that, specifically that kind of sensitive military info was leaked from somewhere like, I don't know, Poland, Germany, France, you know. But again, like I said, they didn't really gain access to much that they didn't already know, and what they didn't know before is not actionable. Like, they can't do anything with it. Guy also put into question the validity of our elections. That could be a concern, for sure. The guy who brought this to light said it was impossible for RPM to get that many amount of votes in such a short time. I highly doubt they're an election expert, so I would take their word with a grain of salt. I leave that to more qualified people to determine. Like, if there are election officials and like election experts, political experts that come out and say, like, yeah, this guy's concerns are valid, then yeah, that's concerning for the state of, like, democracy in Lithuania and whatever. But otherwise, you know. Head of National Department of Safety. Ah, okay. Yeah, then I think that's concerning for the state of democracy in Lithuania, but that's about it for me. It's like, you know, allow me to indicate the sign. Nothing ever happens, or, you know, whatever the phrase goes. Still scary? That's only because it's built up to be scary by media outlets. Media outlets operate on the underlying principle, if it bleeds, it leads. Which means if you can make people think that there is some sort of imminent threat to their person, they will be emotionally invested in reading your story. And if more people read your story, you get higher ratings. Higher ratings means more money. The news is, like, hyper incentivized to make things sound scary, even if they're not necessarily. And information leaks, although they're not actually that scary, are very easy to make sound scary. Kind of like when there's a giant info leak from, like, a bank or whatever, right? Theoretically, somebody could take that and commit a bunch of fraud, right? Like, if my bank were to somehow leak my credit card details and whatever, theoretically I might need a new credit card, but that wouldn't actually mean that I need a new credit card, because if somebody tried to commit fraud with my credit card, I would see it on my bank statement, and all I would have to do is call my bank. It takes like 10 minutes out of my day, and they would be able to reverse the purchase. And the information that got leaked in Lithuania about people's, like, I don't know, educational status, their faces and names, that's even less actionable than somebody's credit card. What if some random person gets access to that and decides to do a prank? I just talked about what that would be. Like, you know, oh, haha, Social Security, I'm going to commit fraud for this person. You can call the bank and be like, hey, that wasn't me. And they would understand because there's been a giant info dump. Or, like, you know, it can stop traffic on a national level? How? Like, what? All you would have to do is like, oh no, things stop for about a week, and then you change all the, like, fucking, I don't know, the secret codes for the traffic lights. That's an easy thing to change. Like, if there's really the drive to change it. And also, that would, like I said, that would be an act of war, so that, like, nobody would do that. There's no, like, reason for somebody to do that, so they won't do it. Like I said, you know, high-profile leaks of information sound dangerous, but they're not. They can turn off heating for entire cities because we have a centralized heating system. Yeah, and like I said, they won't do that. Do you have any idea how hard somebody would be murked if they decided to do that? The entire fucking, like, country would be united against a person if they decided to do that. And if a country decided to do that, that would be an act of war, which would mean, like, massive war breaks out. So they won't do that. When war comes, they might do that. Who? Who would have the motive to do that? Why would they do it? You keep saying somebody might do that. Why? Why would they do that? Why would Russia do that? What benefit would it bring them? Have I failed to, like, explain why countries do things, why people do things, why groups of people do things? What material interest does Russia have in shutting off the heat to Lithuania? To kill Lithuanians? You're delusional. That's your fucking nationalist brain talking. What material interest did Stalin do to deport 150,000 women and children? Easy. He saw them as a threat to his political authority, and in doing so, he perceived that he would be more secure politically in doing so. Therefore, he had a material interest, perceived or otherwise. You know, we can debate whether or not that was really in his material interest, but from his perspective, there's a material argument for him to do that because it maintains his position in power. That is why he did horrible things, because it benefited him directly. You know, all those women and children, those families, whatever, pose a political threat to Joseph Stalin from within Soviet Russia, so he deported them. And as many Russians say Lithuanians are born Nazis. Yeah, but Putin doesn't fucking believe that. Nobody in the Russian, like, inner circle of oligarchs actually believes that. What the fuck kind of threat does Lithuania pose to Russia, realistically? Like, with political dissidents inside a country, the reason countries crack down on political dissidents so hard is because people are, like, would be more sympathetic to people that they know. And when people start making arguments to that effect, that word can sort of spread around, and that can quickly become a threat to an authoritarian government, which is why you get the sort of behavior that Stalin engaged in. With an external threat, if people in one country don't like people in another country, that doesn't mean that the countries automatically fucking invade each other or shut off the heat to the entire neighboring country. There are so many Russian pundits calling for fixing the Baltics. Yeah, and they're full of shit. And all the oligarchs know that they're full of shit because the oligarchs, at the end of the day, just like every other capitalist on the fucking planet, are looking out for their pocketbooks. And it does not benefit any Russians' pocketbooks, and the oligarchs know this, to shut off the heating and water to Lithuanian households. Like, what the fuck? And Lithuania is such a tiny country, too. Why is Russia bombing Ukraine's energy infrastructure then? Easy, because that's not why they're interested in Ukraine. The material benefit that Russia would get from conquering Ukraine, right, is different from the material benefit Russia would get from conquering Lithuania. Lithuania is strategically positioned. Ukraine, actually not so much. Sure, Russia's very interested in the warm water ports and stuff like that, but ultimately what Russia's interested with Ukraine is Chernozem. Russia wants that black soil, that sweet, sweet black soil that would help them grow grain. And, I might add, Lithuania is a member of NATO. Ukraine is not. If Ukraine were a member of NATO, even with all the material interests that Russia had in potentially invading Ukraine, they wouldn't do it, because that would mean nuclear retaliation. And that's not good for anybody's pocketbook. That's why I say that all that information, however scary it sounds, coming out of Lithuania about, like, oh, the energy leaks and now Russia has all their hands on this information. Number one, Russia already had their hands on that information. And this was just another leak for, like, I don't know, slightly updated information. Number two, that's not actionable because it would fucking blow up the entirety of Russia if they tried to make a move on a NATO member state. for so long now. Yeah, and like I said, it's not actionable. You completely fail to understand the concept of material interests that are at play right now. There are a ton of ethnic tensions in Europe, even between countries that are nominally allied with each other. Poland and Germany fucking hate each other, but they're allied. You know, the like material interest overrides the ethnic hatred that happens in all of these cases. Same thing with the Balkans. Even with the ultranationalism, the Balkan nations that are part of the EU, even though I think there's only a couple of them, ultimately they're friendly to each other and would never go to war. And even with the Balkan nations that aren't part of NATO, they would also never go to war on their NATO neighbors or their EU neighbors, because that would mean wider military retaliation that would blow the fuck out of everybody. Material interests. This is what I meant when I said that, like, it's just super easy for media outlets to hype up information leaks like that. It's not actually as big a deal as any news outlet is writing. Like, yeah, sure, okay, cool, they have scary information now. What the fuck are they gonna do with it that won't get them immediately nuked? And Russia is known for not invading its neighbors. Yeah, actually, they are known for not invading their neighbors when their neighbors are part of a broader military alliance. The reason that they invaded Ukraine in 2014 and then again in 2022, and the reason why they invaded Georgia in 2008 is because they weren't part of a military alliance. That's the difference. And you're failing to understand that right now. So yeah, Russia is actually known for not invading its neighbors that have strong allies. Thank you. That's why Russia has been talking about NATO so much. They're trying to undermine the integrity of a military alliance because military alliances deter them from attacking. One of the demands before invading Ukraine was literally for NATO to give up the Baltics. Yeah, and that's because they would never invade the Baltics if they were part of NATO. Russia is like fucking transparently playing this game of like, yeah, we just want to invade and annex all our neighbors, but they can't do that. That's why they had to make the demand for the Baltics to leave NATO, but they just invaded Ukraine outright. You're making my argument for me at the end of the day here, is that, Russia wants to invade both the Baltics and Ukraine, but at the time when, Russia had some opportunity to invade, they only invaded Ukraine, and instead they issued an ultimatum, an ultimately empty ultimatum to the Baltics. I wonder why. Oh, that's right. The Baltic states are a member of a giant, like, international nuclear military alliance, and Ukraine isn't. NATO, if NATO defense is questioned, we will be the first on the chopping block. Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying here is that, like, ultimately, like, the information leaks are ultimately immaterial to this debate. You see what I'm saying? Information leaks or not, like, you could take those new information leaks, right, that you mentioned, out of the picture, and the answer to the question, does Russia invade, will be the same regardless. Like, does Russia invade the Baltics if the Baltics are NATO member states? No. Doesn't matter whether the information was leaked or not, right? Even with this, like, they're not going to invade. Does Russia invade the Baltics if they're not members of NATO? Yes. And that even in that scenario, these information leaks don't matter because, Russia would have invaded them with or without those information leaks. The big difference maker here is the membership in this military alliance. And I want to harp on the point that, like, that's the focal point here. The information leaks don't matter that much. Won't this be easier to carry out when war comes? Yeah, but war's not coming. Look, when we get to that point, ultimately you're splitting hairs. Oh, how fast will the genocide be? Bro, we all know that Russia, like, wants to commit genocide against ethnic minorities in Eastern Europe and shit, right? Like, they have broader imperial ambitions and shit. Like, sure, the information leaks would speed that up slightly, but, like, we're talking, at this point, we're splitting hairs about talking about a hypothetical future that will not come as long as the Baltics are in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And again, the reason Russia did that in Ukraine, the reason Russia does have a broader like genocidal project in Ukraine is because they can get away with it because Ukraine is not a NATO member state. Oops. Ow. I got bumped. Oh. Final Grounds. I hate this track. No, it's mirror mode too. Ugh. This sucks. That way's faster, that's right. Got him. All I'm saying is that currently the possibility of war is unlikely. In the future, the conditions may be different. Yeah, in the future, conditions might be different. But they'd have to be pretty fucking drastically different for Lithuania to not be in NATO, right? Especially because in the wake of Russia invading Ukraine, right? A lot of the Russian geopolitical project in the 21st century, like post-Soviet Union, was to like try to break apart the geopolitical connections in the West to make it easier for them to pull off an invasion like we saw in Ukraine, right? And they had been doing a lot of propaganda and stuff to try to like make countries a lot more skeptical of being in NATO and whatever. But when they invaded Ukraine, all of that all of a sudden like backfired. RT got banned in an instant from most European countries, and the NATO like right now is as strong as it's ever been ever since the collapse of the Soviet Union, right? Like there were questions of NATO potentially having to disband in the past, but now those questions are all instantly tossed out because we've seen that NATO is necessary. Yeah, and 2 new NATO members, Sweden and fuck, who else? Finland, I think. Like, Russia inadvertently, in their project to try to invade non-NATO countries, like, they tipped the world off into what they were doing, and fucking breathed new life into NATO. Sweden and Finland. And so, if anything, I think NATO is going to become stronger, not weaker, as a like military bloc. And I think that's for the better, because defensive military alliances are a good thing to deter conflict at the point that it might break out, right? Like, there are multiple ways to deter war from breaking out, and NATO is like the last, and strongest, by the way, failsafe, a block of strong, industrialized, nuclear-capable countries that you would provoke all of them if you were to commit an act of war against any one of them. You know, and then outside of that, I think I've explained before, there are other really good methods of deterring war as well, such as economically connecting countries to such an extent that even if they weren't in a broader military alliance, war would be ruinous for both of them because it would destroy both of their economies because they rely so much on each other. This is one of the great advantages of globalizing that agenda, you see. Big fan of globalism, me. Even though it has its flaws, one of the benefits of it is it makes conflict ultimately less likely. Yeah, the NATO lake. Yeah, the Baltic Sea is just going to become a lake of NATO countries. We will eventually, Russia will be eventually Balkanized, and we will accept all the tiny Balkanized Russian states into NATO, as long as they don't attack each other. That's a meme, for clarification's sake. That's not, I don't actually believe that. We will annex Kaliningrad. True. Very true. It is kind of weird that Russia has Kaliningrad. I don't know. I think you've explained this to me before, that there was this like project of Russification like they did with some other territories, and they pushed out a lot of people who lived there. But like right now, you know, there had been a referendum or whatever, and like nobody else wanted it. Yeah, they wanted to give it to Lithuania, but Lithuania was like, "What? No, like we don't want it actually," or something like that. Because there's like, well, you killed all the Lithuanians, so now we actually don't want it. It was like Crimea, yeah. Yeah, Crimea is a really unfortunate case. I think Crimea, for the most part, like, it is certainly, it's like morally justifiable for Crimea to be given back to Ukraine and whatever. Because whatever Tatar population is left there was being treated pretty well, all things considered, by Ukraine, for like an indigenous population of tribal peoples. And like they were treated like such shit by Russia and stuff like that. But, you know, in cases like that, you know, one of the most insidious things about a long-term project of ethnic cleansing is that eventually, like, if it's successful, there might not be a whole lot you can do about it, right? Like, once it's done, it's done. You can't, like, unethnically cleanse a place, you know? There are not that many Lithuanians, mostly Germans. Okay, so then it was, like, Germans. They killed a lot of, or killed and expelled. They did something bad to the Germans that were living there, I'm pretty sure. Just like with the Volga Germans. I'm driving really bad this race. I need a box. Ah, I see. Here, I'll just use this now. Ah. Nice. First place, maybe. Cool. It was like Crimea, they wanted a large Russian minority to keep the country loyal. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, history progresses in really fucking bizarre ways, but ultimately predictable ways. Most Lithuanian classical books and art was made in Kaliningrad? Really? Oh, you know what? That kind of makes sense, because I imagine, like, Kaliningrad's in a really good spot for trade, so it's probably a really wealthy area. Oh, because that was banned in Lithuania. Okay, wow. It's kind of fucked up, but also interesting. It's like how all the cool progressive art that came out of Germany before World War II was like banned, and then the Nazis displayed it in the Degenerate Art Museum or whatever. Kaliningrad was in Prussia and Germany, so they could write in our language. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, so it wasn't banned in Germany, so then they would write it in Germany, but in Lithuanian. Yeah. Uh, we had to block to the book carrier movement, smuggling books from Kaliningrad to keep the language alive. Oh, that's cool. You love to see it. I mean, you hate to see that there are circumstances that make that necessary, but, you know, the fact that people were committed to preserving a language is pretty cool. This track is really fun. You know, this track, despite being one of the, like, really cool, edgy, ton of flip tracks, it's got a simple design, and I really respect it for that, because you could, as a new player, you could play this track, and look, there are arrows and all that. There's very clear indications of where you're supposed to go. There's not any sort of insane, like, you win the race instantly tricks. There's no, like, super high execution stuff that you could do shroomless or whatever. Like, yeah, you know, certainly you have to drive well on this track, just as such is the case with, like, any track. But, like, you know, ultimately it's not one of those, it's not like Final Grounds or anything. But it feels cool, all the same. It's also decently long. I like that. I like that there are custom tracks that are long and not too difficult. Ah, damn it. The best item. I should make a blooper emote, and or like a, yeah, something like that. Be like, it's the best item in the game, guys. Oh wait, that's a thing you can do, huh? Okay. Bloopa. That's true. It's so true. No, what the fuck? I didn't even know that could happen. No! God damn it. Okay, let's creep across the finish line. Alright, we're good. We're good, we're good. That was a perfectly placed fake item box. Welcome back to chat, by the way, DWT89. Man, I really don't want to talk about bad news. I've talked about most of it already, so I'm just going to do the cool streamer privilege and just decide not to talk about some of this stuff. Go to Samus, take a pic of the document. Now there's an info leak. Yeah, I wonder. I wonder. Yeah, and now Putin has grandma's social security number. I go to parliament. I take picture of document on politician's desk. Next day, info leaks. Putin is now stealing grandma's social security money. This track is God damn it, Finn! Who could possibly do such a thing? That's true. It was me. I did it, actually. As indicated by the emote. You like that shortcut? Unfortunately, you don't get the item, but you can do that every time. You don't need a mushroom. So far, so good. I'm driving pretty good, I think. Throw this back. I'm kind of counting on there being a blue shell at some point on this track, because this track is really long. Even though it's only 2 laps, it's still pretty long track. I'm gonna just get rid of this. Who cares, really? Careful. Okay. Damn. That POW got me. Try as I might to avoid something like that. That was just a really good POW. Get rid of that green shell, boyo. Yeah, thank you. Oh no, you do get an item. Never mind, I'm wrong. Fun. What a god gamer! He dodged the red shell in a cart! Okay. This is a very rough spot to be in. Second place with 1 mushroom. Because I don't have red shell protection. I do have blue shell protection, but I have to use it up to get to first, which is the spot where I would theoretically get hit by a blue shell. Okay, never mind. I guess I don't have to use it now. Yeah, okay. No! I was hoping he wouldn't use that. Because he's already gonna pass me. Oh, well, I guess, makes sense. Hey, if he takes out the guy in front of him, then that means I get a little bit more leeway to... Alright, I guess not. Dang. He said, nah, fuck you. Yeah, he did. He really did. Oh shit, both of them messed up? Let's go! Get fucked. And the track said to them, nah, fuck you, actually, and therefore I reign supreme. In second place. Of course, our favorite god gamer, the Carter, got first. Did you guys know that despite despite it being Jover, and the West having fallen, and have billions must die, better things are in fact still possible. It's crazy, I know. Crazy concept. Second best racist now? Never. I never cede that title to anybody. I'm still the best racist, even though I came in second place. Although, to be fair, that guy has the purple line, which means he's Korean. He might be a better racist than me. More perfect union. Yes. I recently talked about... don't forget the smile thing for all the Nazi copy-paste. Oh, yeah. That's right. The, fuck. I forget exactly what it is, but I think I know what you're talking about. A little while ago, I mentioned that the state of Illinois was going to pay off $1 billion of medical debt. Apparently, other states have noticed that. And now we have, for More Perfect Union, Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs. Any globe changer is a wonderful thing. I'm actually from Canada, by the way. Hi. Hi, welcome to chat, MSX Matt. Good to have you here. Although I understand it's hard to talk and race at the same time. Based globe mentioned? True! Globalize my agenda. That's so true. Yeah, I'll just read some details of the story from memory. The Arizona governor, Katie Hobbs, has said that, like, the state of Arizona is going to use $30 million in federal money to cancel $2 billion of medical debt. People go into debt paying their medical bills, and the governor of Arizona has decided, you know what, that's actually really fucking hurting people and the state economy and whatever. So we're going to take that debt, we're going to buy that debt, and we're going to just pay it off so they don't have to pay it. Very, very Christ-like of them, I must say. Canceling the debts, forgiving the debts. There's actually, I think there's a line in the Bible or in the Lord's Prayer or something about forgive our debts as we forgive our debtors or something like that. So, anyways, I don't want to get too sidetracked. The post also mentioned, I think, that Arizona was not the only state doing this, and they're not the only state considering doing stuff like this either. It seems like this is a new trend in left-leaning policy in the United States. Is that okay? I guess holding this red shell was a good instinct. Oh, never mind. He had a mushroom. It seems like a new trend in state-level policymaking in America is canceling people's debts so that they don't have to pay like prohibitively expensive bills and potentially like lose their homes and their jobs and whatever. It's also a sin for hundreds of years to take interest on loans. That's right, and it is still a sin. Usury is still a sin. However, usury is one of those things where if you study how economies of scale work in a moneyed world, in a world that has money and has economies of scale, interest is kind of necessary. It obviously doesn't need to be as high as it is. A lot of the reason that interest is as high as it is just because fucking corpos that lend money to other people or even other corpos are greedy bastards that want to get the maximum return on their investment possible. In fact, a lot of times the most predatory lending practices have really high interest rates because they don't actually intend to collect the principal at all. They intend the interest to be so high that you never actually get to pay the loan back. This is particularly harmful for the poorest people in America. This is where the Jewish banker stereotypes comes from, because it wasn't a sin for them to take interest. Yes and no. The reason the Jewish banker stereotype exists is because the church deemed it a sin to take interest on loans, for usury to be a thing. But at the same time, they shunned Jews out of all the professions they deemed to be legitimate. Jews were marginalized into the only profession where they were really allowed to function, which is banking. There were, and I think in some places still are, a disproportionate number of Jews in the banking industry, because historically there's been a prejudice against them being allowed to work in other lines of work. And that's where the Jewish banker stereotype comes from. And that was the source of all sorts of anti-Semitic tropes about them being greedy and money grubbing and whatever, when that's actually not true. I mean, you know, no more than it is for any other group of people, you know? It's just the fact that, like, oh yeah, we won't let you do business in these kinds of things, so you have to, like, they had to turn to banking. Like, for fuck's sake, they even, in some countries, Jews were literally forbidden from baking bread. That's where the bagel comes from. In Germany, Jews were not allowed to bake bread, so they had to boil it. And that's how the bagel was invented, because they figured out you could make a bread in a ring shape, and it would boil nicely, like you'd be able to boil it. Base Lithuania moment, they were not banned from baking bread. Oh, true. Very based. But yeah, that's, you know, that's all that stuff about usury, interest, whatever, blah, blah, money lending. The point is, I described certain, like, predatory lending practices, and these are unfortunately really prevalent in the American medical industry, you know, because medicine's a for-profit industry in the United States. It's not handled like a public good or service. Oh, I got him. Sorry, Matt. You know how it is, Mario Kart Wii Worldwides and such. But you know, with hospital bills being really high, sometimes the payment plan or whatever is like, oh yeah, you know, you can go in installments and stuff, but you know, the sometimes in the tens of thousands of dollars amount of, like, you know, oh, like, this bill is way too much. You know, people get trapped in debt for a long time. So some states have decided that, like, nah, that's not okay. We're gonna clear that up. Jews actually had a lot of rights in Lithuania in the Middle Ages. Yeah, sure. That's true. And that's good. You know, compared to some other countries in Europe, I think that if there were feudal states that were, like, more ethnically diverse, they were a lot more inclined to, for the sake of, like, keeping those feudal domains together, inclined to give more rights and representation to minorities in their country. Such is the case today with very big countries. Even places like Russia today, you know, or the Grand Duchy of Lithuania back in the day, or like the Empire of Persia or whatever. You know, when you have countries that span larger and larger areas, you capture more and more, like, tribal groups of people or ethnic groups or whatever. Yeah, the Ottoman Empire too, you know, with a few notable exceptions, of course. But you know, you generally, like, you start seeing more autonomy in certain locales and for certain minorities. It can only be judged by the Grand Duke directly. That's interesting. If I go back, I'm going to go back to More Perfect Union here. Yeah, More Perfect Union points out, to date, this is the biggest debt cancellation plan in the whole country. You know, $2 billion is a lot of money, especially for, like, Arizona is not one of the biggest states in America. You know, certainly not by a long shot. It's you know, it's one of the bigger states in the Southwest, but, like, you know, you compare it to one of the states like New York or even somewhere like Illinois or Washington, or especially somewhere like California. California being the biggest state in the country. You know, it's decent size, but it's not that big. Jews were given the right of movement. Religion couldn't be proselytized to. Could live anywhere they wanted, but they did have to pay extra taxes. That's kind of interesting from a policymaking perspective and stuff. I'm dead. These were the privilege granted by the Vytautas to the Vytautas the Great to the Jews of the of Kernave. Interesting. Really? Oh, that's cool. Lithuania used to be called the Jerusalem of the North pre-World War II. Huh. How did I mess that up? How? All right. No, he took both my boxes. God damn it, Matthew. All right. I gotta go around this time to get an item box. Here we go. I have to use this. Jay has a bomb. That could be dangerous. Oof. Alright, I at least got 4th. Then the Nazis killed them all with local help, sadly. GG's, Matt. Sorry, I was reading Lithuanian Jewish history in chat, so I wasn't able to race super well. 2 billion in medical debt for up to 1 million residents. That's a lot. That's a lot. Ah, here we go. Yes, these are the other states I was thinking of. At least 2 other states, Connecticut and New Jersey, have moved to erase medical debt owed by their residents, in addition to a growing number of municipal and county governments across the nation. So yeah, this, not just with like the state level, but at the local level, governments are saying, hey, what if we, forgave the debts, as we, of course, forgive the debtors, and all that. USA has crazy big states, except Wyoming, and a few others. I mean, even Wyoming is big in terms of landmass, just, very small population. What? I've never seen that! I didn't know that could happen. That's kind of wild. Is this mirror mode again? I think this is... Yeah, this is mirror mode again. Dang. I think Wyoming is the least populated state in the U.S. And thus has the most disproportionately large representation in the whole government. Because every state gets at least 2 senators, or not at least. Every state gets exactly 2 senators and at least 1 representative per, like, I don't know, 500,000 people or something. And the least amount of representatives that any state can have is 1. So Wyoming, with only 500,000 people, has 2 senators and 1 representative in the national legislature, in Congress. We have a larger population than 18 U.S. states and territories. Yeah, and so some of those states and territories in the U.S. are quite small. But, the states are the only ones that really get representation, fortunately. Ah, a mushroom. That's not gonna get him. I tried, though. Let it be known that I tried. God damn it. There are only 2.9 million in Mississippi. I thought it was bigger. No, Mississippi's not that big. A lot of the southern states are a little bit smaller than they would seem, except I think Georgia and Florida. Those are the 2 biggest ones in the South. If you don't count Texas, which I don't really. Georgia population. Yeah, there are about 10 million people, almost 11 million actually, that live in Georgia. Florida has 21 million. And yeah, when you get to the swampy territories of the United States, there's not that many people living there. But I do want to predict something positive that might come out of the debt cancellation from New Jersey, Connecticut, Arizona, Illinois, and various other localities. I think this is the new frontier of policymaking, and this could like have implications for making these services just outright, public and paid for by the government, right? It could be like this process of slow integration where states and local governments are beginning to recognize that, okay, letting people just languish in debt over this sort of stuff, over these sort of expenses, is really fucking bad for our economies, for these people, for like in many, many different ways. It's just bad, right? So what we'll do is just clear those debts, right? They clear it the one time, but then that just sets people back to square one, ultimately. So at some point, they're going to wind up back in the situation, or potentially they're currently discussing right now, like, this is just going to happen again, theoretically, in the future. So how can we preempt this? Maybe we'll have to go through a few iterations of canceling the debts, like, cyclically. But then at that point, you start to wonder, shouldn't we just have these things be services that you don't need to go into debt for in the first place, that you don't need to pay for out of pocket? Therefore, there's not even the risk of going into debt. And I think this is the start of that conversation in the U.S. And if that doesn't make sense, what I'm trying to say is, right, canceling the debts is a one-time quick fix, and states and local governments know that. Eventually, they're going to think about, and they might already be thinking about, making these services public and free at the point of service, right? Because these are services that are so essential that, like, you can't go without them. So there's always going to be the incentive for them to just be so expensive that people will go into debt for it anyway. And by that same right, they're so essential that, like, they pay for themselves, right? If people don't go into debt over medical expenses, they live healthier. They're able to have more pocket money, and that's pocket money that then they'll go and spend. And that's good for everybody, because that's what people tend to do with extra money. And economies and communities really suffer when people are in debt for such essential things like this. Yeah. Mario Circuit 3D. As opposed to 2D. Curses, I'm the victim of my own good banana placement. Hehe. Alright, last lap. It's been a nice 1v1, but... I think I gain a lot of ground on that turn particularly. Flame Runner just can't take it very tight. Alright. Nice leisurely 1v1. Might have 3 players? Maybe. In before it's just a 1v1. Okay, yeah. Disconnected from the other players. Makes sense. Let's try this again. We might only have time for like 1 or 2 more. Another good thing for the last like 10 minutes of stream here, I saw that Colorado is currently working on a bill. It just passed one of the chambers of the Colorado legislature. Actually, since it seems I can't find a room, this might be the end a few minutes early, but I'll at least talk about this last thing. The Colorado House has passed a bill limiting the use of algorithms for determining rent prices. If the bill becomes law, it'll be the first of its kind in the country. Algorithmic tools let landlords conspire to collectively raise rents. That is to say, it lets them conspire a lot more easily. Landlords already did this thing. It's similar to a lot of big companies who sell essential goods, where they'll sort of, one of them will raise the price, or there's like this collective understanding that none of them are really going to lower the price. They're just mostly going to raise the price. And they sort of give the wink and the nudge in all sorts of like financial newsletters or whatever. It's like, oh, inflation is going up and whatever, and that's sort of the signal that like, yeah, we're just going to raise our prices. Algorithms make that a lot easier because they can share the secret sauce with each other, and this bill makes that harder. So that's good, and it is in a way it's a form of rent control. It prevents you from arbitrarily setting rent prices at really unaffordable levels. We need to copy Korea and have 6 companies own everything. We already have that in America. Or did you mean Lithuania needs to copy that? Because I think the answer is no, you probably shouldn't. That's not a good model for economics. It has hollowed out the United States to a ridiculous extent, and it has also hollowed out Korea to a ridiculous extent. And it has furthermore hollowed out everyone, since, everybody does that. Yeah, hopefully we get some good policy change. We'll see. Let me actually write down based debt forgiveness alert. Very cool. Preview into what I might edit to put on YouTube. And now I will raid Mr. Cody Schwab, who is undoubtedly practicing Melee. Yes, / raid Cody Schwab. Yeah. Thanks for coming out to chat. I know I got very heated in that conversation earlier about the information leak. No hard feelings or anything like that. See you when I see you, I guess.